Hello everyone, here we are at the Nürburgring, looking forward to the second race day after a very exciting race yesterday already. Today's going to be just as exciting. We're looking forward to it, and as to the weather, well, it's cloudy. It was just drizzling just a few seconds ago. Now it's drying up a little bit, but nonetheless, this is pretty interesting. In regards to the tires, the teams were really deciding the very end which tires to put on. And we're here in front of Mirko Bortolotti's car. He's just getting into the car. He is the 7th different winner of the 7th race. So of course he's excited that he won yesterday and getting psyched for the qualifying, that's for sure. And in regards to the tires, to the weather, it's going to be very interesting to see whether this is the right decision or not, because at the Nürburgring, in regards to the weather, we all know it's very unpredictable. So enjoy the qualifying. Here are your commentators.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to qualifying 2 here at the Nürburgring. And it's going to be an interesting one, this, because the circuit is damp and greasy. The rain has stopped, as Verena says, but tyre choice is going to be absolutely key here. So we're using the sprint version of the circuit, just over 3.6 kilometres long, 11 turns, runs in a clockwise direction, and always drama here. Mirko Bortolotti and Kelvin van der Linde got a bit racy through the Mercedes arena last year. Contact there in race 2. Kelvin going on to finish on the podium. A foggy day on Saturday last year, and are coming together on a similar greasy track between Bortolotti and Fraga for the lead of the race. Sheldon van der Linde coming through to take victory, with his brother Kelvin coming home in second to make it an historic first ever 1-2 finish in the DTM for brothers. How they'd love to repeat that today, the two South Africans. So the circuit greasy. The rain has gone away a while ago, actually, and the forecast, for what it's worth here in this very volatile region, is that the rain is going to probably stay off for most of the day. We might get possibly some showers at around about 2 o'clock. The wind looks like it's going to pick up, looking at the forecast, and that will blow the clouds away pretty quickly. But it's going to certainly be a damp start on the track, which might mean it's a quiet start to the session with no more rain forecast for the rest of the session. The drivers' teams might want to wait as long as they can to go out, because perhaps there's not too much to be gained given the conditions are as they are. I would say, looking at the track, it's more slicks than wet tyres at the moment, but you know, I'm not in charge of any of these teams, so we'll see what decisions they make. Yesterday we had Thomas Preining extending his championship lead from 12 up to 18 points with a 3rd place finish. Mirko Bortolotti getting his first ever win in the DTM, moving from 6th up to 2nd place in the championship, just a point ahead of Sheldon van der Linde. So Mirko getting the race victory yesterday. Great 2nd place finish for Lucas Auer as well, his first podium of the season. He had a bit of luck on the restart in that Frank Pereira was kind of bulking everybody on the restart behind his teammate Mirko Bortolotti. He was a lap down, but Lucas really took advantage of that. Said he got a great double toe, and he committed to the move to go from 4th to 2nd in the first 2 corners of the restart. Sheldon van der Linde did pretty well yesterday, coming through the field as well. He was back in 15th place on the grid, came through into 7th place, and his brother Kelvin had a good comeback as well. Qualified 4th, all looking good until they got to turn 1, and he got tagged by Frank Pereira into a spin right to the very back of the field and came back through to 8th place. Dennis Olsen finished 2nd in one of the races here last year, and has been going well so far this weekend. Dennis has been there or thereabouts all the way through the session. He's 6th in the championship now. Got his 3rd consecutive top 6 finish yesterday. So Kelvin van der Linde, who's had not much in the way of good luck this year. It's all been bad luck, really. It feels like it anyway, but Kelvin van der Linde has been quick. The car has been quick, and he'll be hoping for a much better Sunday. A bit like he's been having one good race, one bad race so far. But he did come back to 8th place, pumping himself up, psyching himself up. Then is the championship leader, Thomas Preining. And Thomas has got a bit less ballast on for the race. Nobody has success ballast for qualifying, but he had 20 kg on board as the previous race winner yesterday, but having finished third, he'll now only have 5 kilograms on for the race later on, whereas Mirko Bortolotti will have 20 kilograms on. He'll have success ballast for the first time, and Lucas Hauer will have 10 kilograms of ballast on board when we get to the race. The sun is starting to break through the clouds. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm overlooking the start-finish line here at the Nürburgring. To me, because I'm from Britain, this is tropical, because actually the weather is far worse at home, but it is barely 12 degrees here. It's much colder than you'd expect for this time of the year. And with his jumper and his ski jacket on next to me is Brian Oliver. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Chris. Yeah, I'm going to move around a bit and try and warm up. It's lovely to see. What was that bright thing in the sky? Oh, yeah, it's the sunshine. Yes, looking down at the pit straight here, I can see dry patches appearing. It was raining when we turned up here earlier this morning, but it has stopped. I think you're very optimistic about it staying dry today. I am not as optimistic as you. I can see the black clouds around. As you've already mentioned, I think this session, it's all going to kick off in the last few minutes. The driver's going out at the moment. This will be a cycle lap. Would expect to see pretty well everybody back in the pit lane after this one lap. But there is no doubt at all, if the rain holds off, then the fastest times are going to come within the last few seconds of the qualifying session. I mean, that's how the physics works, isn't it? Yeah. So it could be, well, let's have a good chat for the first 17 minutes and then hold on to your hats for the last 60 seconds.
Yeah, it's going to get drier and drier and drier as it goes on, and therefore quicker and quicker and quicker, and it might almost be last one over the line that does it. Oh, Kelvin van der Linde finds how greasy it is, though, so he takes a low-speed trip onto the grass, parks it up towards the barrier, hopefully keeps the engine running, and we'll get going again. Or has he got a problem? No, he did just go off. I wondered if he'd pulled off for a moment there with a problem, but as soon as you go on that grass, there was quite a bit of overnight rain. It's treacherous, especially on slick Pirelli tyres. So yellow flags out there, and he gets back going again. And yeah, it's annoying, this weather, isn't it? Because it's not quite wet enough to use wet tyres, but it's not good on slick tyres either. And yeah, just completely understeered. He turned the steering wheel right, nothing reacted, and it's worse on cold tyres, on new tyres. So we saw that yesterday, just as the rain started to come lightly. That one or two, including Jack Aitken, had put new tyres on, and the new tyres always take at least half a lap to get up to speed anyway. Mirko Bortolotti, another one having it off as well, the driver that won the race yesterday. So if the best GT drivers in the world are finding it tricky out there, you know it's a bit of a problem, and Mirko looks like he's stalled the car as well, Brian.
Yes, the car looking very stranded there. As you say, when the likes of Kelvin van der Linde and Mirko Bortolotti are struggling, you know it is tough out there. A lot of drivers clearly trying it out on the slicks. Maybe it's wet tyre weather, but Bortolotti, it looks like he's struggling to get the thing going again, doesn't he?
Yeah, needs to reboot the system by the looks of things, so this could spell a disaster if they can't get it going. Just to say as well, we're -2 cars, unfortunately, for this qualifying session, and in fact, I think we're going to get a red flag in the session. Yes, we are. Red flag, session is stopped, and that is because Mirko is stalled, if not on the track, just off it, isn't he, in a precarious position. So that's down at turn 3. Yeah, we are minus a couple of cars today after a huge crash that we had in the damp conditions yesterday. Christian Engelhardt got caught out by them on slick tyres when the rain started to fall, and lost control of his Talksport Porsche on the way into turn 1. Then went onto the strip of grass on the inside on the run into turn 1, and off he went.
Und auf die andere Fuel Pump schalten. Das geht auch. Andere Fuel Pump.
Try the other fuel pump is the message to Mirko, so trying to reboot the
Versuch
system.
die zweite Fuel Pump.
I'm not sure he's getting the communication though, is he? Sees the recovery are here to pull him back. It's not far to get back to the pits, which is a good thing. Yeah, Christian Engelhardt, just to finish the story, going off and then spearing sideways back onto the track, and the car was out of control on the wet grass, and into Anjan Nguyen, who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Completely unfortunate, and just bad timing. And because Anjan would not have been expecting that, would have looked in the mirrors, there's nobody behind me, and then this car just appears from nowhere, and there's too much damage to both of those cars for either of them to compete today. So no Anjan Nguyen and no Christian Engelhardt.
Yeah, those shades of Hockenheim 22, really, wasn't it, when those two got together? Red flags are out. Well, I'm not the expert. There's Mauro Engel also going off. So many of the drivers, many of the very experienced drivers struggling with these conditions. I'm not across the rules, especially on this, but if a car is towed back to the pits during the qualifying session, I presume they are still able to take part in that qualifying session. Yes, you're more experienced in the rules than I am, but they are actually towing it. And now the direction they're towing that car is actually not in the direction of the pits. Let's have a listen.
It might be the cutoff valve, or it might be the clutch emergency loom. I don't know, I can't tell you.
So we're getting one side of the conversation, but obviously Mirko, he's on the radio saying, how can I try and get this sorted? And they're just, engineers trying to think of different things without actually seeing the car to do that. But he's going to have to wait till he gets back to the pits now. His lap time would have counted, but nobody's done a lap time anyway.
Yes.
Because of the red flag. So the clock stops with 17 minutes and 10 seconds left on it. But of course, then you lose the time it takes to get back out of the pits, to get, yesterday it was taking them a couple of laps, wasn't it, to build up, even on a dry track yesterday in qualifying, a couple of laps to build up the tyre temperature to then go for it. So suddenly, time is going to evaporate, and in the blink of an eye, they'll be going round, nobody will have set a decent lap time, and you'll only have 10 minutes of the session left to go. Session to be resumed at 12 minutes past 9, but that's just about a minute and 10 seconds away. So it's going to be a very brief stoppage because the...
Yeah, interesting to see them putting slicks on the Thomas Preining car. We had a little shot there at Kelvin van den Ende. He was on wets when he went off the track, and they're putting the slicks on. So that really is kind of a high-risk strategy, I would say, in these conditions, wouldn't you?
Yeah, although I suppose, the longer it goes on, the drier it gets. It's pretty breezy out there. So in a sense, it's made it maybe a bit more of an easy decision, although wet tyres on the Ferrari of Jack Aitken there, who was very unlucky yesterday, wasn't he? Came into it, make his pit stop to put new Pirellis on, and almost the moment he came out of the pits, then the rain started to really begin to fall down heavily, and he eventually had to come in for wets, and then he came back in again to change back to slicks. Whatever he did, the weather did the opposite of what Emil Frey Racing were hoping for. So what was a promising 5th place on the grid yesterday for Jack Aitken became a difficult non-point scoring race. Right, let's get some reaction down in the pits from Farina.
And I've got Mario Schubauer here from Team Mirko Bortolotti. Mario, what are your first thoughts on what happened with...
Sorry, could you repeat it?
Yeah, what are your first thoughts on why the car's installed?
To be honest, we didn't know this at this moment. We had a technical issue, but for us it is not possible to go again in the qualifying, so Mirko is out for this session.
All right, but hopefully it'll be fine for the race then.
Yeah, for sure. For the race we will do everything that we can gain points.
Very tough luck. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks, Farina. That's motorsport in a nutshell, isn't it? One day, brilliant. Next day, nightmare. So many things that can go wrong in motorsport, there are technical things, there's luck on track, and that's why when you do have the good days, as out wide goes Clement Schmidt, you got to make the most of it, because all these drivers who've come up, many of them racing since their karting days when they're 8 or 9 years of age, that there are more bad days than good days, and Saturday he's on pole position, he wins the race. Sunday he's going to have to start from the back of the grid, Mirko Bortolotti. So everybody else goes back out now. Well, not everybody, most of them on track. We've still got Arjun Maini and Matteo Drudi in the pits at the moment. So Tempto keeping the Italian in. He was in the points yesterday, Matteo Drudi, had a pretty good race actually, to pick up his best result of the season in 11th position. So he's waiting, letting everybody else, I think, Brian, mop up the moisture on the circuit.
Yes, yeah. He wants to see as many cars out there as possible, drying it out for him for when he goes out there. Sandra Holsam, just coming through your picture there. This is a baptism of fire, or is it water, for him on his debut weekend in the DTM. This time last year, he was racing ADAC GT4, and he has been propelled upwards on the road to DTM by the Project One team. Here's Thierry Vermeulen's team radio.
Up to you, you can complete this lap. Next one we can take a decision, and we have on time to maximize this week as well. So take your time, we can take a decision next lap, mate.
As off the road he goes while he's getting the radio transmission, so that's the decision on, take your time, we'll work out what the best tyres to run are. Interestingly, Jack Aitken came back into the pit, so we didn't see it. Now, whether we knew he was on wets last time we saw him. Has he switched? And Rennie Rast is the latest one to go off the road. Lights up the rear tyres, which just spin on the mud here. Luckily, there's a little strip of tarmac there that he's got the rear wheels on. So that'll just give him, I think, enough traction to let reverse and get going again. Car 14 under investigation. Jack Aitken for speeding under a red flag. Right, Rennie, get it going. Yes, he does. Bit of rally cross at low speed, but back on the track he comes. Of course, every time, Brian, somebody goes off the road, they drag a load of mud and muck back onto the circuit, which makes it even greasier.
Yeah, it's going to take even longer to get the track cleaned up and dried up as well. Not to mention all the dirt on the tyres, so they're going to have to tiptoe around the next few corners. There's Luca Engsler, had an awful day yesterday. They had problems with that car. We're still trying to find out what the problem was late yesterday. Hopefully got that sorted, and we'll be looking for a better day today. Currently, he's at the top of the timesheet. Doesn't really mean much though. 1:36.416, not really a representative time. But hopefully they've got on top of the problems with that car in the Liquimoli team Engsler.
The thing with this session is, you know, the track is going to get quicker and more stable and grippier as the session goes on. So in all likelihood, you're not, whatever you do now, the lap times are not going to be competitive enough to get you where you want to be at the end of the session. But you also have seen drivers slipping off the road. We've already had one red flag. So part of you must think we just want to get out there and just get a lap in, just in case.
Lap, box. We go for hot pit stop on slick.
Wow.
Hot pit stop, slick tyres. He's coming in. So Olsen's quickest at the moment, 1:36.142. But yeah, only half of them have set a time. And you would think, let's just get a lap under our belts just in case there's another red flag. You can see how slidey it is. I think Dennis Olsen, I don't know if he's enjoying himself, but he looks like he's having fun trying to control that car. It's kind of fun driving in these conditions. But it's not ideal, that's for sure. So Olsen, 1:36.142. Wittmann, 1:36.4 second. Luca Engsler third with a 1:36.714. Sandro Holzem, fourth place for now. I'll enjoy looking at the timing screen. Although Tim Heinemann has just gone through in the Porsche, 1:35.533 to go 0.6 quicker. It's going to be like that realistically every time, every lap somebody comes across the line. The time will get lowered, and there'll be somebody else on provisional pole. That we already had 3 on provisional pole. Marco Wittmann might be about to becoming the next one. Over the line he goes, absolute best, middle sector, not quite actually, second place for Marco, 1:36.023. We finished 6th place yesterday in the BMW. So far this year, we've had 7 qualifying sessions, 7 different drivers on pole. Pereira, Preining, Engel, Feller, Rast, Sheldon van der Linde, and yesterday, Mirko Bortolotti. We know it's not going to be Mirko. Dennis Olsen might fancy his chances, though. He's going well at the moment, and so the wet tyres are put aside. Slick tyres come on. It's a bit of a worry when it's slippy and slidey on the wet tyre, isn't it? And now you've got to put slicks on.
Yeah, I just think it's very brave. I can see what they're trying to do here, and we can see the drivers that have put in a banker lap on the wet tyre. Of course, it's not inconceivable. This is the Nürburgring. It could still rain in the next 10 minutes, so these times may well count. There are still some that haven't set a time. Arjun Maini, Matthias Drudi, Mirko Bortolotti, of course, who's out of this session. Lucas Harris finally got a time on the board, although it's nearly 2 minutes. But yes, going out on the slick tyres, it really is high risk, but you've got to push the limits here in this session. If you want to be at the front of the grid, it's going to be the person who's on the right tyre at the right time who gets that front row position.
Track's getting quicker because Tim Heinemann was on course to set the fastest lap until he bailed in the last sector and came into the pit, so it's definitely getting there. Time is down to 10 minutes 25 left to go. There are patches out there, and I watched Tim going through the chicane there, and it was pretty dry, I would say, over on that side of the circuit. So you've got to adapt and change your style, your attack approach with every corner, every section of the track. Some of it's damp, some of it's dry, some of it's a mix. Wet's off his, slicks onto his now. So the drivers giving the feedback to the teams are saying, look, it's time to go to the slicks now. What you've got to be really careful of, Brian, is the pit lane, because that remains pretty wet, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've seen drivers in the past who have got it wrong either coming in or coming out of the pit lane. You see how difficult it is just getting the car rolling. Once they drop it off the jacks, the slick tyres are spinning when they hit the accelerator. Frank Pereira, well, he's been on the naughty step for about 24 hours now. He had a torrid day yesterday. He could really do with making up for that. He had a great qualifying session yesterday, but incurred the wrath of the stewards on numerous occasions, had, some would say, a fairly lasting effect on the result of the race as well. Sliding the Lamborghini around, currently in 4th place at 1:36.338, so he's turning up the wick now with less than 10 minutes remaining.
So 1:35.533. Remember that time, because I reckon we're going to be a couple of seconds at least lower than that by the end of the session. We had a lap record yesterday, or qualifying lap record yesterday, set by Mirko Bortolotti in the low 1:25. So we're more than 10 seconds off that pace at the moment. It's going to be a dry line, but if you get it slightly wrong, slightly offline, you're going to be in strife. And you daren't touch the white lines, the painted white lines, which are slippy, very slippy in damp conditions, and you daren't put a wheel on the grass. But there, look, definitely a big dry line forming out in the middle sector of the lap. You also don't really want to come upon any traffic, because then you have to go offline onto the damp stuff, get your tyres wet. Here looks the driest part of the circuit. Let's get from Pereira's team radio.
Yes, copy. There is 9 minutes to go. So we prepared new wet tires,
Wow.
That's a different way of looking at it. New wet tyres. So we've seen tyres slipping and sliding around, be they wet Pirellis, treaded Pirellis, or slip Pirellis. It's just in that window. Nobody quite knows where to go. And off the road goes the championship leader, Thomas Preining, off where René Rast went, but he neatly finds a way through the gap.
Beautifully done.
Like a joker like that in Rallycross, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. There is this mentality, got to get onto slicks quick, got to get onto slicks. But it could be that this is going to be a wet tyre track, and all the drivers that are trying their luck on slicks, that this is not the way forwards. And it might be that it's going to be a wet weather tyre that sets the fastest time of the session.
So replay of Preining going off at turn 5 there, the hairpin. You saw when he, from the onboard, when he went off the road, there was a pretty big barrier there. That's where they block off the Grand Prix circuit that they cut off early on. But he coolly avoided all of that, didn't he? So he's coming through, flashing his lights, because I think it's his teammate Dennis Olsen that's next one ahead of him. Damp then on the way into turn 1. Certainly holds the water. We saw that yesterday on the very inside of turn 1, but they don't, on the exit to that corner, get anywhere near that really. See how damp it is just off the racing line, where the cars are not mopping up the moisture as well. It's still twitchy through there, as Front Pereira shows. Jack Aitken is creeping up the times.
Clemens Schmidt.
Off the road for the second time, not the only one either. We've got the Liquid Monica Luca Exler off as well. Yeah, the Ferraris are creeping up the order. Vermeulen 6th, Aitken in 7th place now. Lucas Auer has just moved up to 9th position. Clemens Schmidt is going to get going again. They're so low slung, those Hurricanes, you can't see them, can you? But that's the tricky corner. It's catching them all out at turn 5 at the hairpin, isn't it?
Yes, it's quite bizarre, really, seeing them almost queuing up to get back onto the track on that corner. So clearly that is the slipperiest section that's catching them out. I dare say the message will be getting back to the teams and then back to the other drivers. Be careful on that corner. Luca Engster rejoins and now riding on board with Jack Aitken. Look at that black cloud in the distance. Yeah, we've still got 6 minutes for it to hold off. Track, there is the dry line coming down the pit straight, and it is Tim Heinemann, 1:35.533.
Jack goes second with that. René Rast a few seconds before was in second place, despite being off the road earlier. So Tim Heinemann still quickest. Jack Aitken now to second. But remember, he's under investigation for speeding under the red flag. René Rast is in 3rd place. Sheldon van der Linde, the next best BMW in 4th. David Schumacher had a good lap. He was in the top 3 momentarily, but at 5th place now. Marco Wittmann 6th, 3 BMWs in the top 6. Dennis Olsen 7th, Bob Pereira 8th, Maro Engel 9th, Luca Engster, another one that's been off the road, but is going well in terms of time. He's in 10th place. Right, Lucas Auer on a Lucas Auer mission at the personal best first sector, an absolute best middle sector. And here he comes. Can he get himself up onto provisional pole here as the sun shines down? He comes out of the shadow of the hotel. He accelerates over the start-finish line, and he goes to the top of the times by 0.6 of a second. And Kelvin van der Linde, just behind on the road, goes up to 3rd place. So here we go. This is about to all kick off. Strap yourselves in, everybody, because the times are going to go down and down and down. Absolute best first sector now for Sheldon van der Linde, 49.409. David Schumacher, absolute best middle sector, but he was half a second slower than Sheldon in the first sector. And now Jack Aitken goes absolute best middle sector as well. Lucas Auer's 1:34.899 the time to beat, and it's been beaten by Maro Engel, but it's about to be beaten again, I think, by at least 2 or 3 other cars, including Sheldon van der Linde. Schumacher goes to the top of the times for now. Over the line comes van der Linde. He goes to the top of the times. Jack Aitken comes through just behind. He puts the Ferrari up to 4th place with 2 absolute best sectors. He just lost out in the long first sector, but he's got some more time to get down to the absolute best pace, which is probably going to be even quicker than the 1:33.407 that Sheldon van der Linde has just set. So van der Linde, Schumacher, Engel, Aitken, now Ricardo Feller going 5th. Lucas Auer was fastest. He's now suddenly 7th. Preining goes ahead of him as well into the top 6.
This is what we came for. This is the screens absolutely lighting up with less than 4 minutes remaining in this session. There are purples popping up right, left and centre. I can't keep on top of it. Mauro Engel currently in P3, but he's the quickest of anybody in Sector 1. That has now just been eclipsed by David Schumacher. He's up into P2 at the moment. Now the quickest in Sector 1 is Sheldon van der Linde. Every corner there is a new driver that's setting a best of anybody.
The first sector is key because that's almost half the lap, or more than half the lap in terms of the time. So that's the one. If you get that one right, you're on a real good run, and Sheldon is doing that absolutely. It's 48.5 seconds through there. Sectors 2 and 3 are around about 22 seconds at the moment. So Schumacher going well, but Sheldon van der Linde on a big mission here. Rennie Rast pops himself up to 3rd place as he comes through. Lucas Auer gets back into the top 3 and to 2nd place. The top 3 score championship points, remember. David Schumacher goes back to the top of the times, 1:32.922 seconds, but not for long because Sheldon is right behind him on the road, goes into the 1:32.3s. Jack Aitken gets himself onto the front row of the grid in 2nd. There's Thomas Preining, who's had 4 consecutive front row starts now from qualifying and has been the best qualifier on average so far this season. Ricardo Feller goes 3rd, the driver 4th in the championship in the blue Audi. It's just flashed through shot. Where is Preining going to end up on this lap as he comes through? He's going to shoot up the order, 4th place. So 4th place, that's okay. Kelvin van der Linde's just set the absolute best first sector though, as Lucas Auer gets out of the way of him. And 2nd sector is a personal best as well. It was the absolute best first sector. Tim Heinemann, who's currently 15th, Brian, has just set the new fastest first sector time.
So Tim Heinemann did have that, but David Schumacher has just eclipsed that. So now he's the quickest, but Sheldon van der Linde now purple in Sector 1. So the car that's at the top of the timesheets, the quickest in Sector 1, Sheldon van der Linde, looking to become the first repeat pole sitter this year, doing all the right stuff. He's out of Sector 1 into Sector 2. We're riding with Tim Heinemann at the moment. Personal bests in 1 and 2. It's stringing together all 3 sectors is what is needed. Sheldon van der Linde, though, you can see he's also purple in Sector 2. That's now been eclipsed by Jack Aitken, quickest of anybody in Sector 2.
Heinemann goes 2nd, but look, Ricardo Feller, absolute best first sector, half a second quicker than Sheldon van der Linde's first sector, which at the time, 15 seconds ago, was the best of the session. It's getting massively quicker now, so Feller is on course for provisional pole position here. Jack Aitken is 2nd, a minute and a half to go. It's almost going to be the last one over the line at the end of the session that gets the job done, but here comes Ricardo. This should be a big improvement, I reckon. He's about to go over the line. Yeah, 7/10 quicker for Ricardo Feller. 1:30.320 seconds. Sheldon van der Linde 2nd, Jack Aitken in 3rd. Dennis Olsen has just gone through and into 4th place. Thomas Preining, the championship leader, the next one over the line, but it's only 9th place.
So we are 5 seconds a lap quicker than we were just a couple of minutes ago. That's how quickly this track is evolving, and everybody getting quicker and quicker. Jack Aitken has been looking so quick, but that P3 is as good as he's going to get at the moment. Fastest out on the track at the moment is Ricardo Feller, 1:30, the only driver into the 1:30s. He is 7/10 of a second ahead of Sheldon van der Linde at the moment. Who can catch up with Ricardo Feller?
Maybe Sheldon van der Linde, absolute best first sector, 47.1. So that knocks another couple of tenths off the previous best first sector time. But behind him on the road is Ricardo Feller, 46.7. So Ricardo is in the better track position here. He comes through, he gets mopped up, he gets drier and drier, and he's 4/10 quicker than van der Linde through the first sector. So van der Linde might well get provisional pole, but Feller behind him on the road is going much quicker. Jack Aitken is knocking on the door as well with a very good first sector. A couple of tenths, or half a second down on that one, but an absolute best middle sector. Sheldon van der Linde 2nd, misses out by 81 thousandths of a second, and Jack Aitken goes to the top of the times, but hold fire. A checker flag comes out. Ricardo Feller is on course to do this and to get pole position. Here he comes. Here's the checkered flag. Ricardo Feller goes over the line and goes nearly half a second quicker. Dennis Olsen over the line behind him. What can he do? He's done personal best in the first 2 sectors. 4th place for him. So Feller, Aitken and Sheldon van der Linde are the top 3. Olsen is 4th. Engel is 5th. Anybody else on a really good first sector? That's the key key one. Nobody else got in the 46s, so I don't think so, unless they have absolute miracle final sectors. I think Riccardo Fella has probably done this. More cars stream over the line, but Riccardo Fella, absolutely brilliant in the right place at the right time. But, you know, there were others behind him on the road. It wasn't just about being in the right place track position-wise. Jack Aitken with a brave effort as well to go onto the front row of the grid.
Sheldon van der Linde was the last car across the line before the checkered flag came out, so he is still on a lap. His sector 1 is a 46.863, so it's not a long way off what Riccardo Fella had done on the last lap. So Sheldon van der Linde still in there, 21, well, maybe into sector 2. Not quite. I was wondering, as the last man across the line, he is still out there. He is still doing a hot lap.
Yeah.
He could still improve on his P4.
He's a 10th down in the first sector. He's lost another 10th compared to the best middle sector, but that was Aitken. Aiken's best in sectors 2 and 3, so he might be on course at least to improve and get himself up there. He does. He gets onto the front row of the grid right at the end of the session, second place with a 129.809, so just over a quarter of a second, or just under a quarter of a second away from Riccardo Fella. That pushes Jack Aitken down to third place, but Riccardo Fella it is that gets pole position, and Riccardo Fella, when he gets pole position in the DTM, tends to win races. That's what he's done so far. Pole position at Imola last year, he won. Pole position at Zandvoort, and he won the race. He's pole position here after a mad qualifying session. Sheldon van der Linde on the front row of the grid. Much better qualifying than yesterday, where he qualified 16th, started 15th. Jack Aitken in third place. David Schumacher with his best ever qualifying in fourth place. He was on provisional pole a few times as well. Lucas Auer in fifth. Marco Wittmann in sixth. Maro Engels seventh. Dennis Olsen eighth. Tim Heinemann in ninth. Kelvin van der Linde at 10th. Lauren Heinrich then was 11th place. You look at the timing screen, there are thousandths of a second between each position once you get past the first few. Then we had behind Lauren Heinrich, René Rast ended up 12th. He was one of the drivers that was up there. I think he was briefly on provisional pole. Lost track of it already. Matt Hall in 13th, having picked up his first DTM points yesterday. Arjun Mani was one of the drivers that waited to go out, wasn't he? 14th place, which I think might be his best of the season so far. And then 15th place, Yusufa Vega. Thomas Preining, though, the big loser in all of this, down in 16th place. Remember, he's been on the front row of the grid for the last 4 qualifying sessions, last 4 races, but 16th for the championship leader. Engsler 17th, Stoltz 18th, Holtzen 19th, Trudy 20th, then Schmidt 21st, Niederhauser 22nd, Vermeulen 23rd, Pereira back in 24th, Deleda 25th, Bortolotti 26th. The SSR Performance Lamborghinis are all right at the back of the field.
Well, they say after the Lord Mayor's show comes the dust cart. I should think Mirko Bortolotti would agree with that one. Riccardo Fella becomes the first driver this year to get a repeat pole position. Is he going to be the driver to be the first driver to win 2 races this year? He's certainly in a strong position, but Sheldon van der Linde, who will be starting alongside him, I think Jack Aitken has got a bit of a point to prove after yesterday's fairly disastrous race. But remember, he is under investigation for speeding under a red flag. So the stewards are going to be looking at that. Let's hope he doesn't get a grid penalty. David Schumacher, P4, that's got to be his best qualifying I can remember.
By a long way, yeah, absolutely. And 3 points for pole position for Riccardo Fella as well. So that will move him. We'll stay 4th in the championship, but it'll go from 75 to 78 points. Sheldon van der Linde gets 2 points. So he moves back up to 2nd in the championship with that. He was 1 point behind Bortolotti. He's now 2 in front of him. So he moves on to 90 points, 16 points behind the championship leader, Thomas Preining, and Jack Aitken gets a point for 3rd place as well. Let's get some reaction with Verena down in the pit lane.
And I'm here with Jack Aitken, so perfect, P3. From here you can go a long way. So what are you hoping for in the race? Obviously, I mean, it's going to be tough, right, to go to the front?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm even a little bit disappointed with P3. I think it was a great fight with these 2 guys. We just missed the checkered flag in the end to get 1 more lap, which in these conditions, it's everything. But yeah, we're in the fight for sure. Race pace yesterday was not so good, so we have to think of some tricks for the race today.
Best of luck, Jack. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Verena, and good to hear from Jack. It's a good sign when you're disappointed with 3rd on the grid, isn't it? It's his 2nd best qualifying of the year. He was on the front row at Oschersleben. But there's a very happy Riccardo Fella, very much in the championship fight. Race 8 of the season coming up later on today at 1:30 local time, which means that after that we'll be exactly halfway into the 2023 championship season. Just very quickly counted through the results on the timing screen. I've counted at least 6 drivers that were on provisional pole position at one point in that session. I think there might have been more as well. So super slow-mos are the top 3. A fantastic qualifying session with Ricardo Feller on pole. From the commentary team, that's it. Let's hand back to Verena Vries down in the pit lane.
This man did a fantastic job. Congratulations, pole position, Ricardo Feller. So now from here, how are you going to take the win home later on?
Well, first I'm going to check the weather radar. I think it will be quite tricky later. But anyway, the guys did an amazing job again. It was quite tricky out there with the slicks, but it worked out. I'm very, very happy. And yeah, let's look forward to a great race.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much. And we are looking forward to this race. So see you later. And now here are the highlights. See you later. Bye-bye.